everyone, Therese here. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. I wanted to start by chatting with you about a message that I got today from someone I follow that really, it resonated deeply with me. It was like what I needed to hear at this time. And so I wanted to share that with you and kind of expand on it, and in case you need to hear it too. So the message was about spiritual ego. When I think about spiritual ego or any kind of ego, I tend to think about ego in terms of bravado. So we're overcompensating, we're overconfident, or we feel like we're the best at it and therefore we need no help, right? That's one kind of ego. But there is another side to it that I think more people tend to fall into over bravado, and that is the side of the ego that's completely about insecurity and lack. Like you're nothing, right? You're not good enough, you're not doing enough, that kind of ego. And so that's the one, that kind of ego I feel like claims more victims than bravado, and usually can be masked as a type of, I think it can wear a mask of, humility, like humbleness. Like we're sort of seeing ourselves when we're going through that kind of ego as maybe being humble or meek rather than having an ego issue. So today I was listening to Danielle Laporte. I love her. I love her work. And she had a great quick message that she sent out today talking about what your spiritual ego can say to you. And she was really, again, sort of focusing on this, the ego that's connected to insecurity and not being enough. And so she was talking about the kind of messages your ego will send you about your spirituality when you are sort of falling into that trap of not enoughness. And it was things like, in fact, if you go to her YouTube channel, today's post for Danielle Laporte, it's like 6 minutes and it's great. She just kind of covers it all. But some of them were things like, I'm not doing enough, right? I'm not raising my vibration enough. I'm not devoting myself more deeply into my spirituality. I'm not committing to a higher timeline. Like all of the things that you can think about when it comes to not enough, right? So that's kind of one other end of the spectrum that I feel like a lot of us can get trapped in, is this, I'm not doing enough and therefore, right, I don't deserve better, maybe, is one of the thoughts that comes in. One of the thoughts that's been coming in is that I've focused in on something that I want to see, that I want to create in the world, and it's not coming fast enough, right? It's not coming fast enough. And so therefore, I must be failing, right? I must not be doing the right things. I must not be going deep enough or committing more deeply to my work. And so when I heard her message, it gave me such a huge sigh of relief, and I wanted to pass that forward to you in case you are also feeling the same. Because I know some people are. I know that a lot of us are in the same boat. And, she said a catch-all phrase that really can soothe the anxiety or fear around it, and also quiet the ego down, is the phrase, I'm doing the best I can. And I think that this is something that, we need to really check in with more, is that we're doing the best we can in any given moment, right? And that when we grant ourselves that compassion and that understanding and the recognition that what we're going through, right, on all levels is extra. It is not easy. And when I feel into it intuitively, what came up for me was that, again, we're in another round of initiation. And so you're going to feel that initiation. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about today's karma cards, is what initiation is and what it looks like, and how I think even deceptive the word initiation can be. Because for at least to me, I'm thinking, okay, that's one time, right? Once I'm initiated in, I'm past that point. And my team went, oh, wait. My team said, no, not quite. Every time your awareness broadens or you deepen to another level, you are reinitiated yet again. So for those of us who are like, I did this already, I've gone through the dark night of the soul, and so I don't need to do this anymore. What Spirit's trying to tell you is that you've actually achieved another layer, right? You've gone even deeper. And so if you feel you're in that process again, that I wanted to share with you what it looks like, what it means, and why we're going to keep coming up against it. Because I think that if we have an understanding, even if we don't see the whole thing, because it's really, when we're talking about spiritual topics, it's really hard to see the big picture, because it's an infinite picture with so many layers and octaves and levels to it, that to assume that we understand all of it is naive on our part. So we have to understand that from what we can kind of grasp, this is layered and it goes pretty deep. Okay, so I want to share with you some of the notes that came through regarding initiation. And I think that if we can at least move into more understanding around it, what it's going to do is we're going to drop our own resistance, and we're not going to push back on it. Because I know for me, when I've come up to that next layer and I feel the initiation process beginning, I resist. I'm like, oh, no, we're done. And my team is like, actually, no, right, we're going to keep going. Okay, so let me talk to you about initiation and what that looks like, and also how, connecting back to what I first talked about with the spiritual ego, that can be involved, right? That I didn't do it right, I didn't do enough, I'm not doing it as deeply. That can come up every time initiation comes up, because again, initiation is breaking through to another level of awareness and understanding, higher levels of consciousness. Every rung you kind of go through takes you deeper, okay? So every time you break into a new sphere of awareness, you must go through an initiation. So I want to show you I'll show you my notes, but I want to show you what they gave me about spheres of awareness, right? So this is really basic. I think it's more complicated than this, but I like to try and simplify things down so I can kind of get my head around it. So I'm showing you these rings here, okay? These are the spheres of awareness. So the first sphere is the self, right? So that's the first level of understanding we all must go through, is the understanding of self, right? And we're initiated into that. That usually comes with an awareness of what's operating inside of us, the patterns that we're holding, the fears, the shadow, the behaviors, right? What we embrace, what we reject, that all is inside the sphere of the self. And actually the beautiful thing about these spheres is that they're sort of the same process, they just ripple out in awareness. So once we initiate into understanding ourselves, we have a certain level of mastery and understanding around that. Well, once we have that, we break into a new sphere, and I call that sphere the local sphere. So your local sphere would include those you are intimately connected to, right? So your friends, your good friends, your family, your intimate relationships, right? The people that you know, love, and trust. This is a local sphere. And again, in order to go deeper, we're going to go through some kind of initiation of understanding, which is usually this sort of break between the story we tell ourselves about this relationship or these people and what else is there, right? And that again includes the layers of like patterns of behavior, shadow, what you accept, what you resist, things like that, how you interact, what happens when you interact. And then the sphere outside of that is basically the same kind of breakdown of understanding, except now it's on a societal sphere, right? And then after that, then we're looking at a global sphere of awareness and understanding. And then of course it goes galactic. And that's the simplified version. But you can see with every single one of those, you sort of start the process over again, except now your understanding starts to encapsulate more of what's around you until you're embracing your entire environment. And so when that's happening, we initiate into another layer. It can feel, so initiation, let's talk about what that looks like. So initiation, again, it comes in on levels, not all at once. And that was that was a hard one for me to initially accept, is that initiation is not one and done. It's you're breaking through new levels of awareness. And so the procedure of initiation, and this is also called a rite of passage. That's another way you can kind of phrase this process. But this procedure allows us to penetrate the veils of understanding and move into higher perceptions to comprehend the mystery of being in each of these areas. So who am I? How do I relate to those around me? How do we relate to the world at large? How does our own sphere relate to the galactic, and how does the galactic relate to, the ultimate source energy, and so on, right? So we're penetrating the veil of understanding and achieving higher levels of awareness each time. So how does this rite of passage or initiation work? It's by means of a transition. Okay, that's important. A transition from life that we know to a temporary death, okay, by means of a magical dream. So again, there are many types of initiation. There's this mental initiation, but in ancient cultures, when the spiritual processes were more closely observed and when it was more open to everyone and not closed off, right? An initiation would include some kind of deprivation. Now you want to think about one that we can think of as a rite of passage in a tribal culture where they send, the young man out into the woods to go meet his, adult self, right? So the young man transitions from a boy into a man. That's a rite of passage. And that's a type of initiation, which includes deprivation of your support system. So the young boy must fend for himself and learn that he is a man because he can in that scenario. In other scenarios, for example, the initiation into higher levels of understanding and deeper spiritual knowledge many times came with some kind of sensory deprivation. So for example, during the time of Egypt, when someone was being initiated into great healing or initiated into like the healer's caste or the priest caste, they would go through a type of sensory deprivation. And for example, in the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and I believe other pyramids as well, there were healing chambers. It's called the King's Chamber, right? And these were very confined chambers. It was like enough room for like maybe one or two people to lay down in, the initiate and the healer. And they would lay in this chamber together, and it would completely deprive one of, using their sense of sight because it was pitch black. There was no real sound, right? And there was a little bit of air coming through to keep them alive, but everything else felt like it was shutting down. And what this does is it creates, again, that temporary death. And so what's happening here is because you're depriving your physical senses of the world, there is sort of this, I can only imagine, I feel like I've gone through this in a past life, but that there was this sort of absolute panic and anxiety as you couldn't perceive the world. And as that illusion dies, as it falls away, what happens were that the extrasensory senses really picked up and turned on to compensate for that whole experiences. So the belief is that by limiting your physical senses, you will be able to tune into your extrasensory senses and open up your awareness of energy. And this also starts to open up the reticular activating system at the back of the head, because there is nothing to, the data that we normally would either pick up or block out through our senses has been blocked, allowing for more data to be explored by the mind and letting more information in. And what is required when we're going through an initiation? The requirements are moral purity, so an understanding of your core values, right? This understanding of what is of value to you. That actually helps you through a time of initiation, but it also gives you a foundation to work from. The strength of spirit or the will, right? So initiation is meant to test these things. It tests your core values. It tests your will, how much strength of spirit is available to you. And then the final requirement is an aspiration towards the truth. And this is the trickiest one because it requires that we detach from any illusion so that we may fully see the truth. And I think that that part is the scariest part of all of them, because just like if you were in a sensory chamber, you would have to detach from this idea that only what you can physically, taste, touch, smell, hear, etc., that's the only thing that's real. And what happens when you detach from that is that suddenly you're able to sense energy. You're able to go deeper, right, into the layers, and your understanding, it's like you get cracked open to another level. And what I found that was really interesting is that more than humans go through initiation. So we've got plants, animals, nature, planets, solar systems. These all go through initiation. They're all going through something that breaks them into the next level. This is how evolution happens. And so even though as I've read this too, you might go, ugh, God, no, I don't like that. Even though that might be the reaction, I know it's pretty much my reaction. What you can see here is that it's like initiation is a test of, can you expand the mind, right? So as we expand the mind in our conscious awareness, we break in and we receive the next level. So the saying that we have, we're never given more than we can handle. Initiation tests that. Can you handle this? If you can handle this, you can handle what comes next, which is the expansion of awareness and understanding. So going back to, the spiritual ego and the fear of I haven't done enough. And if you're using the external circumstances or the heaviness of the time, if you feel like you're going through a heavier time and you're like, I've been through one of these before, why am I going through it again? Then what I want to share with you is that you're breaking through to the next level of yourself. And rather than, taking it hard like you've failed or you're not fulfilling maybe your own destiny or your highest potential, rather see it as breaking through to the next layer of your real potential. In a really good scene to understand initiation, it's kind of dark, but it really does, I think, do the job of highlighting what initiation looks like. There's actually an initiation scene in the movie V for Vendetta. So for those who've seen it, it's her prison scene. For those who haven't seen it, it comes towards like the last third of the movie. But that is also a really good and I think pretty accurate metaphor without all the drama around it, but how it feels to go through initiations and what's on the other side of it. At this time, the energy is shifting so much new energy is coming into the planet from the higher spheres, coming into us. In fact, I think on Friday, I just looked at the chart. We have another solar storm coming, which means another influx of this photonic light energy. And so with all this new coming into the earth sphere and then to our own human vessels, it can be really tricky to understand how you process things now, because I guarantee you process different than you ever have before. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with clients I work with. People are processing in a whole new way and we're just not used to it. It's new, right? And so we're trusting our past experience to tell us if we've connected deeply, if we're getting in touch with our guides. And you might find that it feels different now. If it does feel different, I want to assure you, you haven't lost any connection. You haven't done anything wrong. It's connecting differently. The webbing, if you will, between you and your spirit world, it's a finer, higher frequency now. And so it's going to feel less dense. It's going to feel less intense in the physical body. And yet the connection is probably stronger and faster than ever. So I just want to share that with you. All right, so now I want to do karma cards with you. For those who've never played karma cards before, let me tell you how it works. I've got 3 decks here. I've got the planets, the signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've already got 2 sets of answers, one in red, which represents action-related answers, and one in blue, which represents outcome. And to play, all you do is tune into yourself and feel whether or not you need action-related answers at this time or outcome-related answers. While you're feeling into that, I want to give you the timing of this reading. So this reading is for today, St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Through, I almost said January. Nope. Through March 24th. So today through March 24th. And the flavor of this reading, we have the North Node. The North Node represents the future, like what the goal is, the destination. In the sign of Scorpio, right? The sign of transformation. In the 7th house, which is the house ruled by Libra. And so we're looking at partnerships, cooperations, marriages, relationships. Okay. So for those who are choosing red or action, your spiritual action at this time is to have faith in the extraordinary power of prayer diplomatically. Okay. Have faith in the extraordinary power of prayer diplomatically. So the diplomacy it talks about, I really feel this is a point that's coming up for a lot of people about, again, we're going to keep being brought back to understanding that there are multiple sides and no one is wrong. No one is wrong. And it really depends on what your perspective is and what reality you're tuning into. Because again, the idea of this one reality that only one thing is right is inaccurate. There are multiple realities happening. There are people sharing the physical space with you who are in slightly different dimensions. And I know that's like out there, but it really helps you understand it when you think about pure frequency, when you think about who works, who is compatible with you and who's not, right? So the people who aren't compatible with you, they're not wrong. They're on a different timeline. They're on a different dimensional frequency. Yes, they're right next to you. Yes, you can interact with them, but they're not seeing it the way you see it. And so, again, this diplomacy is this understanding that everybody's got a way through this. Everybody's path is different, right? And have faith in the extraordinary power of prayer. You know, when you're praying for what you're looking for, if you're praying for the future, pray for the highest good of all beings. Therefore, you're asking for everything to turn out, right, for the highest good rather than trying to get it a certain way. Recognize that you don't even have to worry about that because there's multiple paths to the way home. Mental action at this time. Do not worry about the highest and lowest aspects of relationships, right? So again, that's part of what the initiation is, right? That awareness of high and low aspects in relationships. Don't worry about that right now. Acknowledge that you're going through something. Acknowledge that this time might be testing you. It might be feeling like a rite of passage or an initiation or a test. And don't worry about it, right? The answer is always right now, I'm doing the best I can. It's an intense time with a really good payoff. I promise that. I feel that. The payoff is good for the amount of work that we each have to do on a spiritual, mental, emotional, and even physical level. It's intense by design, and we're being given sort of like the this is the fastest path forward, actually, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like it for some of us, but it is the fastest path forward, because we're being introduced with so much catalyst, which will get us to make choices. And so by every choice that we make, whether it's for, sticking to I'm moving up in frequency, I'm polarizing positive, or I'm abandoning it all of those choices count. They're all good by means of the universe. But one of the things that's happening right now is you're not allowed, but we're not being given the opportunity to tune out. Okay, you don't get that opportunity right now. Yeah, my team's like bing bing. And so that is why we're on the fast track, because if you can't tune out, you have to continually make choices that move you along your path, which speeds up the process. So like I'm saying, the outcome is good. And what the cards here are saying is, yes, you're going to have that awareness. Don't worry about it. Do the best you can in every moment. Yes, you're going to make bad choices. Don't worry about it. Just keep recognizing that there's always a choice available in how we move forward. The physical action at this time. Now is the time to control the situation and get a fair deal. So, can we really control situations? I say not so much, but we can control how we perceive it. We can control how we react to it. We can control whether or not we lay something over it, or we, resist it or accept it, whether we're present or we're checked out. That's the part we can control. So it's the time to have that awareness that you have choices. You have control over the situation as far as how you respond to it. And in that way, you do get a fair deal, because you start to recognize, what am I putting out energetically right now? Am I moving along my intended path? Am I resisting it? Am I going backwards a little? Right? We're again, so much catalyst and opportunity to be self-aware, to keep moving forward. So now let's look at outcomes. Outcomes for the North Node in Scorpio in the 7th house. So the spiritual outcome at this time, there will be purification to resurrect balance. I like that. I like that very much. Purification, that comes through the initiation process. We drop what's illusory and expand our awareness, and that is the purifying act that allows you into the higher realms of energy and consciousness, right? So there will be purification to resurrect balance. Balance is the recognition that, again, balance implies that there are polar opposites, right? That balance implies that two things are weighing down the scales, right? At least two things. So we're going to get the purification to resurrect balance. It's not about zeroing out the other side. That's not balance. Balance is about recognizing the side you desire to be on, the side, the energy you wish to be in, and acknowledging that the other one also exists, right? And it exists within us as well. So when we recognize that we're both insecure and secure, we zero out both and come to 0 point energy, perfect balance, right? Because we're acknowledging both exist. Hatred and love, it exists inside of us. I acknowledge both as being coexisting inside of me, and therefore I balance the energy and I bring it into that perfect union place, which is what we're looking for. So that's a great message. Okay, the mental outcome at this time. Success from the secrets of cooperation. Wouldn't you say balancing out, acknowledging somebody else, right, is a secret to cooperation? That is the secret of cooperation. To cooperate together means I don't have to zero out somebody else. Somebody else's experience somebody else's reality, somebody else's truth, to make mine more dominant. That's not going to be how it works. And it will only continue with the divide and conquer strategy. I mean, we will just keep doing it to ourselves until we realize that no one can take from you what is truly yours. And then you won't desire to take theirs away either. And when they recognize that you are a safe space, cooperation, working together. Physical outcome at this time, benefit resulting from the power of your partners. Okay, we're doing this together, right? And we have unlikely partners during this process. I mean, unlikely meaning that during this time that we are aware of it, some of our partners feel highly like, I wouldn't partner with you. And yet here we are, right? From the soul perspective, we knew what we were getting into. We knew who we were getting into it with, and we fully embraced it and saw it as the opportunity it truly is. So again, benefit resulting from the power of your partners. So what we're doing here again is we're being asked to allow ourselves to go into a deeper state of trust, right? And the golden rule is the secret of cooperation. Treat others how you wish to be treated. I mean, this is the rule that I talk about with my kids daily to make sure it gets in the subconscious mind. We are treating others the way we want to be treated. When we think from that place, we naturally check ourselves. And if we're sitting here going, God, I wish they would knock it off or wake up or act like me or get it right or stop this or that or the other thing, we're naturally not treating others the way we want to be treated, because I would never want to be oppressed in the way that my mind is trying to oppress someone right now. So by having that awareness, right, that the true secret to cooperation here is that acknowledgement and the seeking to understand and trusting that by allowing someone to be who they are, as they are, as long as there's no harm to them, to you or them, let them be, right? And that is, again, puts you in that mindset of, I'm treating you how I'd like to be treated. Remember too, that somebody has to start, right? Somebody has to start the higher frequency behavior. And so many times the one who holds the awareness of it, you're the leader, right? And we can be reluctant leaders, like, God, I just want them to get it. I want them to show what I want. And it's not really how it works. Somebody's got to start the chain reaction of love. And for those listening to this, that's you. You start the chain reaction of love. You're very powerful, right? And so are they. Some of us just in the moment are given the awareness, or have access, I should say, to the awareness more than others. So if that's you, be brave. Take the opportunity to see here that that again, balance doesn't come from shutting something else down. That's not what balance is. Balance comes from the awareness and acceptance of both being there. And when that is achieved, this awareness of like, there is this and that, and then you're okay, that creates that field of unity and peace that we're all looking for. So unity isn't going to come to us through zeroing out somebody else's perspective. It's not going to happen like that. Unity is going to happen when we can accept someone else while standing up for ourselves. I accept you while I stand in my belief, in my power, in my love, right? When we have that, that creates that beautiful 0-point unity field. So I hope this message warms your heart. I hope that it eases you if you've been going through a little bit of a initiation time. And I want you to know that I love you very much, and I'm always thinking about you, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Bye. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.